The money coming into esports right now is insane, but the players aren't always the ones seeing the big paychecks. Speak to any esports attorney and you hear the horror stories. One of the most recent examples was the controversy with Tainted Minds, a team in the League of Legends Oceanic Pro League. In that case, players and owners bickered back and forth about unfit living conditions and an inability to train. But the heart of the problem was the incomplete and ineffective contracts which were not written or checked by proper lawyers. Even in the LCS, which has some of the most advanced contract structures in esports, there are pitfalls. Contracts offered by top orgs in the North American LCS have gotten pretty good over the last couple of years, but not so of their counterparts in Europe. Some continue to offer some of the worst contracts in esports. We spoke to Ryan Morrison, one of the top lawyers in esports, to dissect an LCS contract and what pitfalls players need to watch out for. When many players get a contract, the first thing they look for is the total salary amount and the length of the agreement. Often, these are the only things they care about, but not digging deeper is a big mistake. There's a reason these documents regularly stretch past 20 pages. There's a lot to cover inside. Take salary, for instance. Players should make sure base salaries are exactly what they seem. LCS rules include minimum salary requirements, currently $25,000 a year for full-time starters. This will increase to $75,000 next year in North America. Some orgs will structure the salary above the minimum as a bonus, which means it's not guaranteed at all. And salaries based on sponsorship revenue are notorious in EU because they can fluctuate month to month. Players should also be careful to negotiate their split of tournament and prize winnings. Salary can be taken away. Pros miss that far too easily in their contracts. Most NA orgs now offer caps on fines as part of their contract boilerplate. But in the past, teams could fine players unlimited amounts for no reason. A good way to get rid of a player without paying his buyout used to be to fine him for the balance of his contract. The length of the agreement can also be an issue. At the end of the term, some contracts will have team options that lock players in indefinitely. And buyout clauses go both ways. If players can't pay, they can get stuck. Some contracts allow orgs to keep an underperforming player on the bench, sometimes indefinitely. And because LCS contract minimums apply only to starters, bench players may receive minimal salary, depending on how their contract works. There's more to a contract than just money. There's also responsibilities. Imagine being contractually obligated to stream 10 hours a day on top of a 6-hour scrim block and even more team training. Players would burn out. That's why it's essential for contracts to explicitly spell out how much time players should spend streaming, since teams tend to make the majority of their sponsorship revenue from player streams. A lot of contracts are drafted by lawyers with experience in traditional sports, and they need to be modified to suit esports. Still, the overall environment has improved for players. Riot now requires teams to treat players as employees, not contractors, which is still a new thing in esports. As employees, players gain access to important terms like health insurance, benefits, and 401ks that they didn't receive previously. And teams are more and more required to help foreign players obtain visas. But players shouldn't assume that these things are included by default. They need to make sure each term is spelled out in detail in the contract they sign. Despite the progress made in improving the standard LCS contract, issues still remain. According to Morrison, the real way to improve the contract environment is to require every player to have legal representation. Currently, only a fifth or so of the players in NA have lawyers. That percentage is even lower in Europe. This is one area where esports really needs to look to traditional sports for guidance. In most traditional sports leagues, players cannot sign contracts without representation. In addition, leagues typically prescribe rules for how agents and attorneys should work with teams and players to avoid conflicts of interests, tampering, and other issues. Players on LCS teams often talk about team synergy as a key ingredient to success. Synergy with their teammates, coaches, organization, even with Riot. But the first step to ensuring good synergy is to make sure players are signing fair, beneficial contracts with the benefit of legal representation.